What is going on, guys? My name is Brawler, bringing you another video about the PDL, PLD, whatever. I really don't care, because the name in this case is irrelevant. Anyways, today I am here to bring you the post-draft power ranking analysis, and before I even begin, I will say that this is my version. There has already been a version that I really could not believe. It has a few controversial points, as well as teams that I personally believe should be ranked higher, but there are a few agreements between me and him, and I will get into that. Of course, I am in this, so there will be a little bit of bias. Of course, I'm not ranking myself number one. There is no way I deserve to be number one in this draft, especially with the current team I have. But anyways, let us jump right into this, and we will see what I have to say about each team. So starting off at number 10, I am afraid I'm going to have to agree with the previous power ranking and give it to LBL, also known as the Long Beach Hombres. Don't get me wrong, none of these teams are really bad per se. Out of all of them, this team is the most underwhelming. The Landorus Therian for the first pick was very wise, especially since it fell to 4th. However, it does have a 4x ice weakness. In addition to that Flygon we see down there, Tangrowth also shares the ice weakness, the Mega Pinsir. He really doesn't have a solid ice resist either. Debatably, he can just send in the Suicune. Suicune will get worn down over time, especially if it's an ice type with freeze dry, such as Mamoswine, or actually I think that's it for the draft that has freeze dry. Continuing on with this team, just the first, or the second through 4th pick, I should say. Mega Pinsir is a great Mega. I do like it, but the 4x weakness to rocks kind of is bad for this team, especially since his only defoggers are the Landorus Therian and the Flygon, which neither of them really want to be running defog regardless, especially not in Gen 7. He does have the Komala for rapid spin, but he can't be overly reliant on it or people will know. The Suicune and the Tangrowth I feel were taken way too early in the draft. They should not have been taken that early, 2nd and 3rd for those two mons. Not a really good idea in a free draft, especially since Tangrowth is kinda later if it does get drafted. Suicune, on the other hand, probably should have been taken around 4th or 5th if he wanted it. But looking at this team as a whole, he has some good offensive threats, and he has a few defensive threats. I personally feel as though his team is a lot frailer than he thinks it is. Reason being for that is he has multiple 4x weaknesses. Landorus and Flygon share a 4x ice weakness. Pinsir there has the rocks weakness. Staccatica down at the bottom left in round 9, I believe that was. Very nice pick for round 9. Unfortunately, it does have the 2 4x weaknesses in fighting and ground, which does not help his team at all, I have to say. In addition, his best threats offensively are the Landorus, the Pinsir, of course, and the Staccatica, in my opinion, because they all can hit extremely hard. However, they mostly cannot take much damage. Even Staccatica, with its amazing defenses, will get worn down quite easily to strong attackers. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Long Beach Hombres, I'm going to have to give you the number 10 spot because of these reasons. I wish I could not give you this, but I have to agree with the other person. You did not draft too terribly well, and because of that, you have received the number 10 spot. Moving on to number 9. Personally, I do like this team. Just he doesn't have the best final drafts, I suppose. But moving on, we have, I want to say, yeah, the Greenwich Gastrodons. First things first, these first 2 picks, very controversial in my opinion, because dual fairy types, while they don't share a weakness, there is that notion of dual fairy. He didn't really need it, or should have kept it. Could have waited until later if he wanted Tapu Fini, because Tapu Fini likely wasn't going to go anywhere. But moving on, this team, really solid offensively. You have the option of Wish Pass with Umbreon there. Celebi, really good, excuse me. Really good last pick there. Has nice offensive move pool, support move pool if you really need it. Has the option for Baton Pass Nasty Plot, which your team will benefit from with Magearna, the Tapu Fini, Thundurus, and the Claydol, because the Claydol really needs that boost if you want to run an offensive set, and even the Mega Pidgeot or the Arcanine, depending on the set you run. I do like it. This team's nice offensively. That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about with this team is the ability to set hazards and the speed tiers in which it has. Don't get me wrong, it does have some solid tiers with Mega Pidgeot, and then a slower tier with Claydol and Mandibuzz, which even then Mandibuzz is fast for defensive Pokemon, and then Magearna. But again, he does have solid tiers. I just don't feel as though he'll be able to keep up with the rest of the draft, especially in a hazard-oriented draft such as this. He has multiple rock weaknesses. Some of his biggest sweepers have that rock weakness, being Thundurus up here. We have the Salamence, the Arcanine, the Pidgeot, and even one of his most reliable defoggers, and Mandibuzz is weak to rocks, which is not good. Moving on to hazard removal, he is okay, I suppose, in that regard. Tapu Fini does get defog, so does the Thundurus and the Salamence and the Pidgeot. And he does have a Rapid Spinner in Claydol. But a lot of those mons don't like to run defog if they can prevent it, especially the Thundurus, the Salamence, and the Pidgeot. Pidgeot, of course, being his only Mega on the team, brings that down quite a bit if he wants to run a defensive defog set, which isn't even good on Pidgeot to begin with. Now the pick that I find the most controversial about this team is the Claydol. Don't really understand why he went Claydol. He didn't have a ground type, and he drafted a psychic type later in Celebi. Claydol, as I said before, very underwhelming. I've used Claydol in the past. It has good defenses. I've used it in doubles effectively, used it in singles effectively. It's a decent rapid spinner. It has good coverage, especially with like Ice Beam, get rid of grass types. But its offensive stats don't support that large move pool, unfortunately. It's going to be very reliant on Nasty Pass if it wants to have a chance at getting any sort of offensive buff in this draft. But yeah, this team, he doesn't have the hazard removal. He doesn't really have the hazard setters, but he does have anti-meta sort of mind tricks with his team, his offensive and defensive capabilities. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. So I believe that number 8 is going to have to fall to the White Forest Weedles. This team, at first glance, is extremely powerful offensively. I like it a lot offensively. These first 4 picks, Tapu Lele, Mega Mawile, Mega Venusaur, and Mega Latios, very nice. Good speed tiers, very versatile when it comes to options. Mega Mawile in itself is a very strong wall breaker. And the draft just continues to get better as you go down. Infernape, Rotom Wash, Scolipede can pass potentially 3 stats with Speed Boost, Swords Dance, and Iron Defense. so that's always good. Tentacruel, very reliable. Rapid Spinner, Toxic Spiker if you need it. Hippowdon, bulky. It's very, very bulky. Staraptor has the Defog if needed. Very strong hitting with Reckless, Double Edge, or Brave Bird. In Tangent with a Life Orb. But we'll be taking whatever life it needs to be. And we have Tyranitar there. Good Sand Setter. Goes well with the Hippowdon. Shame he did not get Excadrill. He would have gotten Excadrill. That would have been really nice. Even like Stoutland or something. Just something to be able to outpace and destroy whatever it needed to be. And then we also have the Weedle. I don't like the Weedle. So, first things first with the White Forest Weedles. Mega Venusaur is being traded. It is currently one of his Z users. It is being traded for Porygon Z. Personally, I do not agree with this pick at all. I watched his video about why he picked certain mons. Mega Venusaur originally was going to stay, and he wanted to get Porygon Z, but unfortunately that did not turn out the way he expected. So Mega Venusaur was gotten instead. Personally, he should have kept the Mega Venusaur. Will not be there week 2, which I'm disappointed about. The Mega Venusaur really brought his team together well, completed a real good Fire, Water, Grass core with Infernape and Rotom Wash. And even Tentacruel there. And I'm just very sad that he's deciding not to keep that. And this Weedle pick, again, I watched his video. He said he wants to replace it for Mega Sceptile. Still not as good as Mega Venusaur, and I am taking into effect the trades when it comes to these deals, or these power rankings. I just don't think his team will hold up. It's kind of frail, if I do say so. Debatably, he can run specially defensive or defensive Tapu Lele. That Hippowdon has some bulk. The Rotom Wash has a bad HP stat, but it has very good defensive stats. And the Scolipede just is kind of meh. The Tentacruel isn't physically defensive, but it can take a couple hits. And the Tyranitar is specially defensive as well. He has some really good specially defensive bulk. It's a shame he doesn't have much physical bulk to take hits. I'm very disappointed. He should have been better, but anywhere else in this draft, he kind of has everything covered that he needs to have covered. So I don't see any other problems with this. Unfortunately, this will have him get the number 8 spot just because the rest of the teams are kind of good in comparison to this. It's just a shame he's getting rid of the Mega Venusaur. Let's go on to number 7. Number 7 in this case, I am giving to the Oakland Remorators, I believe. Yes. This team is very sand-oriented, which is very rare to see in draft format. I'm surprised with the draft. He has very good walls. He has very good offensive pressure. What's unfortunate about it is that he really does not have much. He has the Excadrill there, which can Rapid Spin, set rocks of its own. The Kartana can defog, I suppose, but it has an amazing attack and defensive stats. Scizor can defog. Ferrothorn, of course, a very annoying mon to deal with. Can set up rocks. Leech Seed or Toxic Stall if it needs to. And then you have Toxapex up here, which is known for being an annoying Pokemon. Toxic Spikes, Baneful Bunker, can run Regenerator. I was happy when they announced Toxapex, actually. The two Megas here are very dangerous. The Tyranitar, of course, setting up sand for any of his team members. And the Mega Deontay not taking any damage from that sandstorm if he decides just to bring a regular Tyranitar, which he could do, but just isn't recommended. Overall, this team is good. However, you can look at the team immediately and see how many mons he has weak to fire. He has a 4 times weakness to fire in Ferrothorn. 4 times weakness to fire in Kartana, 4 times weakness to fire in Scizor, and then he also has added fire weaknesses from Excadrill and Magnezone. This being said, he has quite a few resists. That does not remedy the fire weaknesses because they are still there, but he does have resistances. He has the 4 resistances with Keldeo, Dragonite, Toxapex, Mega Deontay, and actually 5 with Mega Tyranitar, 6 with Victini. It's just kind of unfortunate that he really doesn't have too much. Even those mons mentioned, out of those, Toxapex, Victini, Mega Deontay, and Tyranitar are all weak to ground, which isn't good. Magnezone has that 4 times weakness. Excadrill has that 4 times weakness. His only immunities are the Tornadus and the Dragonite. But a mon with the right coverage moves, such as Infernape, could easily destroy this team, even with Sandrush Excadrill. Alright, apologies about that cut. But anyways, yep, that is the Oakland Emerators team, and because of the reasons I've stated, that is why I have chosen to give that, or the coach, Sunny, the number 7 spot. Now we have an interesting situation, because the remaining teams I really don't feel have too many weaknesses. It's just unfortunate with the ones that they do have. And because of this, the number 6 team, I'm afraid I am going to have to give to the Sizzling Salazzles. I really can't say too much negative about this team, but there is some that I want to address after the positive, of course. The first 4 picks out of these, the Mew was really good, and the Mega Sharpedo and the Zygarde. Skarmory, a little bit iffy about because in draft format, of course, coverage can be run whenever needed, and Skarmory has that unfortunate, very bad special bulk. So whatever it's hit with specially will be doing a lot of damage. On the bright side, he did get the Zygarde, so it cannot be hit with 1,000 arrows. Excuse me again. But yeah, the Skarmory cannot be hit with that 1,000 arrows, which is really beneficial for this team. The same goes with the Mega, cannot be struck down with 1,000 arrows. But other than that, Vex here really does have a solid team. But in the ways of his team overall, he does not have much of that offensive presence as much as I'd like him to, because Mew can run that offensive set if it needs to. Zygarde can run offensive, obviously. Very nice attack stat, good defensive stats for what it is. Even has access to Dragon Dance. Mega Sharpedo hits incredibly hard with Crunch, or really whatever Fang move you decide to give it. Raikou, of course, very strong electric type, was OU for the longest time. Chandelure, 145 base special attack it has. Just every other stat's kind of lackluster. Lycanroc, Dusk, Anya, Mega, respectable attack stats, respectable stats overall, but will come up short. In addition, other than the Skarmory, the Florges, and the Chansey, really doesn't have much bulk. The Mew can be bulky, but it takes a lot from knockoff, and really just is underwhelming. If it doesn't run that defensive set, because a lot of mons can do what Mew can do better. He does have an option for Toxic Spikes though, which I do like. Unfortunately, he does not have many removers of his own. He does have Mew and Skarmory. Skarmory can run Defog, however it is more of a spike stacker as well as Stealth Rock setter, and Mew is the same way. Stealth Rock, Will-O-Wisp, Annoyance, maybe Defogger, but it has to be dedicated to that role. And then Hitmontop, of course, has Rapid Spin, but I really don't see Hitmontop doing too much other than Rapid Spin and Close Combat Spam. It can be defensive, but that's a stretch. But yeah, Unfortunately, I do like this team, and I'm sorry to give Vex the number 6 spot, but compared to these other teams, I do think that his is the most underwhelming. Okay. Moving on here, and this is actually getting to be a little bit harder than I'd like. We are going to go to the New Haven P-Dubs. In the other power ranking video, this team was given number 9 or 8, I believe, and I can sort of see where it's coming from there, but I don't agree with that assessment at all. He has a lot of options. He does have some very stupid picks, and let me emphasize that, very stupid picks, but he does have good offensive capabilities as well as defensive capabilities, and will be very good in this. First things first, this Porygon Z is going to be Mega Venusaur next week. That is the one I was discussing, in which the trade occurred, and for this team in particular, I like him getting the Mega Venusaur. He does not have that, he has that fire type, excuse me. Let's start with these first 4 picks. Celesteela, Blaze Fallon, Megalatias, and Crocodile. Good defensive presence. Celesteela in draft format is amazing, being weak to only fire and electric, while being able to set up fairly well. Celesteela has a lot of sets. It can run Automize, it can run Weakness Policy, it can run Physical Special, defensive, just pretty much anything you want it to. It's better Ferrothorn in the fact that it can deal out more damage than Ferrothorn can, be more unpredictable than Ferrothorn is. Blaze Fallon, obviously one of the better Mons introduced in Ultra Sun and Moon, likely the best Mon debatably, because I do not like Zeraora at all, and Staccatica was a little underwhelming with its typing. But Blaze Fallon here, Ghost Fire, very nice offensive typing. Not many things can resist it. He does, ironically, have... Oh, no, he doesn't. Terrakion does not resist Ghost. But, yeah, not many things resist Blaze Fallon's stab combination. Mind Balloon, of course, is a very strong nuke. Bad in current metagame, though, and probably not going to be seen too often in the draft. But very high special attack stat, respectable attack and speed. Blaze Fallon is a bit unpredictable, not as much so as Celesteela. Megalatias, of course, very bulky, strong hitting. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with the Megalatias. And Crocodile, of course, has that option for both Moxie and Intimidate. So he has a little bit of options there. However, as his draft gets further and further and further, it gets worse and worse and worse. Okay. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the Azumarill. Azumarill is a little bit predictable, though it does have access to Sap Sipper, though it takes away from its offensive capabilities. Sap Sipper would catch somebody off guard, and again, it also gets access to huge power, which doubles that okay attack stat of its, and allows it to perform a sweep, so that's always a good option. Porygon Z is there, able to Omni Boost. I don't believe it's a Z user. It could be, I could be mistaken, but I don't believe it is as of now. You can Omni Boost if it is a Z user, in fact, but I agree with the Mega Venusaur trade because that added bulk with good offensive stats would be a holster for that. Clefable, of course, good Stealth Rock setter, very Stallmon, I suppose, unaware user, of course, Magic Guard if it wants to run an offensive set with Life Orb, with Calm Mind Store Power. Terrakion, good pick in round 8. Stealth Rock setter, very strong hitter, faster than you would think, 108 base speed, I believe. Then we continue on to this 4th row. Oh my goodness. This is what brought his team down to number 5. Smeargle as the Z user. Oh my goodness, what were you thinking, my dude? I do get that he gets every single Omni boost as well as Baton Pass, but that should be no reason to use Smeargle over even this Porygon Z, the Blaze Fallon, the Crocodile, even the Terrakion here. Just no. The only saving grace is that it can Baton Pass, which I guess is cool, but other than that, not really. Then we have Crobat. Crobat, out of these last few mons, I think is the best. Good defogger, unfortunately does not get the toxic spike removal because of not being grounded. And it's also weak to rocks itself due to its flying typing. It's a good pick for that round, so I got nothing more to say about that. Fortress, controversial, but for his team I suppose it works. Does give him a 4x fire weakness, but he has enough resists to where he should not have to worry about a 4x fire weakness. Fortress, of course, getting access to spikes, stealth rocks, and volt switch, making a good pivot, and if it needs to be. I believe it also gets rapid spin, so there's that. But this last pick, why did you pick Electrode? Very fast Pokemon, I believe, base 140, 145 speed. Fast taunt, that's always good, but underwhelming. Electrode is known for going in, going boom, and never being seen again. Is that what you're planning to do? Are you planning to use it as a sweeper? Nasty Pass maybe with Smeargle? Why Electrode? You had a lot of other options there. Alola Raichu is a good option. Raichu in general would have been better than this. Just, why Electrode, my dude? That's all I have to ask. Alrighty, moving on from number 4, which was the New Haven P-Dubs. I think it is time to move to number 4. Excuse that little tongue twister there. New Haven P-Dubs is actually number 5. We are going to be going to number 4, which is the Sydney Scizors. In no way is this team bad, in my opinion. Personally, very strong team. I like the offensive core that he has going on here. And there's just a few drawbacks that I find with this team that put him in the number 4 spot. Of course, he has a very strong core with Ash Greninja, Heatran here, Zapdos, and the Mega Gardevoir. Well, he has the Mega Medicham in this spot. So that, just starting off, has really good coverage, good Stealth Rock and Defogger and Zapdos, of course. But as you get further along, he kind of just has the same thing. He has I don't remember if Toxic Spikes Amoonguss is a thing. I don't think so. It could be. But he really doesn't have much in the way of removal. I think Serperior did get Defog in this generation. I could be very wrong again, but his only way of removal is the Zapdos. Not really reliable if you ask me, but anyways, he does have that very strong offensive core. He even has these 2 very good wall breakers down at the bottom, an Araquanid and Xurkitree. Xurkitree, of course, boosting its special attack on every kill. Base 173 special attack, very nice. And then Araquanid getting Sticky Web in Gen 7 with Move Tutors. Also, actually, through breeding, excuse me, is going to be beneficial. But other than the lack of removal, I don't see too much of an issue with this team, and I am going to be looking out for this team in the future. Moving on to number 3, I am going to give this spot to myself, actually. My team, the first 4 picks are extremely potent in the OU metagame. Tapu Koko being a very hard switch-in to whatever I decide to run on it. Scizor there being a hard switch-in, Bullet Punch, U-Turn with that Technician, and very high base attack stat. Garchomp having Stealth Rock, very good defensive versatility, as well as offensive versatility. And then Volcarona, being the Quiver Dance sweeper that it is, will still be there. Similar situation though, it sort of stays the same as you move through, and I definitely could have picked up more bulk. I do have the Shaman though, the Quagsire, the Cofagrigus, all good defensive walls. Well, they can be, if I so choose. The team does boast some very nice hazard removal as well as hazard setters. We have Mega Scizor who can run Defog, Garchomp can run Stealth Rocks on Nidoking, here Toxic Spikes on the Cofagrigus, Rapid Spin on the Hitmonlee and Starmie. So there are those options. I believe Quagsire also gets Rocks if I want to run it. Very hard to switch into team with Koko, Scizor, Garchomp, Volcarona. Pretty much any single one of my mons, bar Quagsire and Cofagrigus, not running Nasty Plots, will be hitting something for good damage. Alright, moving on to the number 2 spot. In this case, I am actually going to give it up to the Shadowlord City Sharpedos. This team is flat out scary, I will admit. Kyurem Black at first, and then he just continues to draft amazing mons. He has that bulk here in Cresselia and Togekiss, and while I do not agree with the picks in third and second rounds, he does have that bulk. The Megalopony, of course, very fast, very hard hitting, will be doing a lot of damage to whatever it hits. Volcanion being a good sweeper, just unfortunate with that electric and rock weakness. Otherwise, it's a good mon in my opinion. Weavile here, very fast, hard hitting, like Lopunny there. Same thing with Azelf and Thundurus. Then you have the Decidueye, of course, very good defogger in the metagame. And then we have Pelipper, Mega Swampert, and Kingdra. Good Rain Core, could run well with Thundurus with Thunder. Could run with the Azelf with Thunder. Pretty much anything, get a 100% accurate Thunder, and hit very, very, very hard. Alright. However, with this team, it does lack a little bit of bulk, with just Cresselia and the Togekiss being walls. Of course, Volcanion can run the Assault Vest if it chooses, but other than that, doesn't have too much bulk. He also has pretty bad rock weaknesses. Kyurem Black, Togekiss, Volcanion, Weavile here, Thundurus, and the Pelipper all take damage from rocks. He really doesn't have but these 3 removers, maybe 4. I think Volcanion got Defog. But yeah, he has a rock weakness, and he doesn't have too much bulk. Other than that, he has a really good team, real solid, very unpredictable with that Rain Core. And then finally, we have the number 1 spot, we have the New York Lattes. This team, very, very nice. I see no negatives with this team, well, none really. He has good bulk, it's kind of slower, however, he does have the Mimikyu here, the Mega Manectric, and the Hawlucha. Both are really fast. He of course has good bulk in Snorlax, Reuniclus, even though low Momola, real nice there, and he of course has the Jirachi here for the flinch and whatever he decides to bring. He has the option for Wish Pass with the low Momola and the Jirachi, which is real good for his team, as not many of them have too reliable recovery. The Bulu does have Hornleech, Roost with Charizard, Wish. Actually, a lot of his team does have recovery, bar the Mega Manectric and the Nidoqueen. Even Mimikyu here has some sort with Leech Life and Drain Punch. But no, I don't see too much of an issue with his team. Overall, one of the best in the league, and I think it is the best in the league, hence the number 1 spot I'm giving this guy. I think he will likely come out on top. It's unfortunate what happened to him in week 1. It should not have happened, but we will get into that next week. Until then, I do believe that this team has deserved the number 1 spot for the post-draft analysis, and hopefully we will see good things from it. So, with that, I am going to be signing off, and until the battle on week 1, this is Brawler signing out.